What if I told you that one of WWE's biggest ever stars was performing in front of millions while hiding a secret so serious it could have ended her career at any moment? A secret so dangerous that even a simple open-hand slap could have devastating consequences. This isn't a storyline. This is the reality that Ronda Rousey says she lived through. In her own words, Rousey's history with concussions was so severe that by the time she got to WWE, even a slap from Stephanie McMahon was enough to give her concussion symptoms. She couldn't tell anyone. She couldn't risk it, and she had a lifetime of practice hiding it. This is the shocking truth about Ronda Rousey's turbulent time in WWE. It's a story of hidden injuries, backstage power plays, and a career she claims was sabotaged by one man, Vince McMahon. And tonight, we're laying it all out. Before all the controversy and backstage drama, there was the phenomenon. Ronda Rousey wasn't just a fighter, she was a cultural icon. An Olympic bronze medalist in judo, she stormed into mixed martial arts, became the UFC's first-ever female champion, and was a seemingly invincible force who ended fights in seconds. She was a pay-per-view giant, a movie star, and one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet. So, when she made her official debut for WWE at the 2018 Royal Rumble, it felt like a monumental shift. This wasn't just another celebrity appearance. This was Ronda "Rowdy" Rousey, in her prime, committing to the world of professional wrestling. The company sold her as a game-changer, the final piece of the puzzle for their women's revolution. The expectations were sky-high. WWE had signed a legit superstar, and for a moment, it looked like the perfect partnership, promising a new era for the women's division and the entire company. And for a while, it was perfect. Rousey's rookie year is still seen as one of the most impressive in WWE history. She wasn't just coasting on star power, she was putting in the work. Her debut match at WrestleMania 34, a mixed tag team match with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, blew all expectations out of the water. It was crisp, believable, and athletic, silencing the critics who doubted she could make the jump from the octagon to the squared circle. From there, her rise was unstoppable. Just months into her run, she captured the Raw Women's Championship from Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. She was presented as a dominant fighting champion, and at first, the fans absolutely loved it. She was different. Her intensity was real. Her presence was undeniable, and she brought a legitimacy to the women's division it had never seen before. She was the baddest woman on the planet, and for most of 2018, nobody could argue. But in the world of professional wrestling, honeymoons rarely last. The first cracks started to show not long after her championship win. While Rousey was a natural in the ring, her connection with the live audience began to fray. The very thing that made her a star in the UFC, that unfiltered, brash confidence, started to rub some wrestling fans the wrong way. The cheers slowly started to get peppered with boos. Then came the comments that poured gasoline on the fire. On her YouTube channel and in interviews, Rousey started blurring the lines. She called wrestling fake fighting for fun and labeled the fans ungrateful. For the performers who risk their bodies year-round and the fans who invest their hearts in the stories, this was the ultimate sign of disrespect. Superstars like Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch publicly fired back, arguing that while the finishes are planned, the physical toll is painfully real. Rousey's attempt to play a villain on screen had spilled into reality, creating a rift with her colleagues and the audience that would never fully heal. Behind the on-screen drama, Rousey was fighting a much more serious private battle. In her tell-all memoir, Our Fight, she revealed a shocking medical secret she'd hidden for years, a long and severe history of concussions. This wasn't something that started in WWE or even the UFC. It traced all the way back to her judo career. She had suffered them so regularly that she developed an MMA style specifically to avoid getting hit. By the time she got to WWE, she knew her brain was in a fragile state. She admitted that she had to hide this from the company. terrified they wouldn't clear her to compete if they knew the full extent of the damage. This history puts her WWE career in a terrifying new light. Every bump, every slam, every single match carried a hidden risk far greater than anyone knew. She was performing in the main event of WrestleMania, all while knowing that her career and her long-term health were hanging by a thread. If the physical toll wasn't enough, the backstage environment, according to Rousey, was just as toxic. At the center of her frustration was one man, Vince McMahon. In her book and interviews, Rousey has been brutally honest about her disdain for the former WWE chairman, calling him an 80-year-old a-hole and describing the creative process under him as a sh-t show. She claims that instead of helping performers have great matches, they were constantly fighting McMahon's chaotic last-minute decisions. The most glaring example was the botched finish to the historic first-ever women's main event at WrestleMania 35. Rousey says the match was poorly planned, and the controversial pin, where her shoulders were visibly off the mat, was not a planned work, but a fumble on the grandest stage. But maybe the biggest source of her anger stems from a match that never happened. Fans were desperate for a dream singles match between her and Becky Lynch, the hottest feud in the company. Rousey claims she returned specifically for that match, but McMahon repeatedly pushed the plans off until they were scrapped entirely. She saw it as a massive opportunity, sabotaged by a boss she felt was out of touch. While she has deep respect for Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, her experience with Vince left her feeling burnt out and completely disillusioned. This story has so many layers, and if you're finding this look behind the curtain as fascinating as we are, do us a favor and hit that like button. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more deep dives that expose the truth about the world of wrestling. Now, let's get into how it all came to an end. The mix of physical exhaustion, secret injuries, fan hostility, and creative frustration was a recipe for burnout. For Rousey, the notoriously grueling WWE schedule was just not sustainable, especially as she wanted to start a family. Being on the road for over 200 days a year was no longer an option. She gave the company an incredible rookie year, but the price was just too high. Her first run ended at WrestleMania 35 with that controversial loss to Becky Lynch. She did return for another stint from 2022 to 2023, but the magic was never fully recaptured. Her final major act was putting over her real-life friend, Shayna Baszler, at SummerSlam 2023, a move she reportedly had to fight for. Since leaving, her explosive comments have been met with a polarized reaction. Some fans and insiders call her entitled or a crybaby, arguing she's blaming McMahon for her own failures. Others see her as a whistleblower, a brave voice exposing a toxic culture and a flawed creative process under its former leader. Her departure wasn't just an exit, it was a statement. So, what is Ronda Rousey's legacy in WWE? It's complicated. You can't deny her massive impact. She was a mainstream star who brought more eyes to the women's division than ever before and was part of the first-ever women's WrestleMania main event. She proved a female athlete could be a top draw in a male-dominated industry. But her time was also defined by conflict. Conflict with the fans, who she never truly won back. Conflict with the business itself, which she openly disrespected. And a deep personal conflict with Vince McMahon, the man she feels ruined the most promising chapter of her career. Her story is a cautionary tale about the collision of two worlds. The brutal reality of MMA and the carefully crafted spectacle of sports entertainment. She was a trailblazer who smashed glass ceilings, but also a polarizing figure who burned bridges on her way out. Was she a disgruntled star who couldn't handle the unique pressures of WWE, or a truth-teller who exposed a broken system? The answer is probably somewhere in the middle. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What is your lasting memory of Ronda Rousey in a WWE ring? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that the companies don't want you to hear. We'll see you next time.